Thank you for coming this morning. This is a part of a series of Coffee with Your Congress member that I have on a regular basis around different neighborhoods. But I wanted to have one specific with my brothers and sisters and make sure that we hear from you first and foremost, that we hear from you, right? And we are in touch with what you're doing, and you know what also my office is doing, and to see if we could further collaborate on some of the projects that we have going, and then also be attentive to the future ideas that may come our way or that may be proposed right here before all of us, right? So I wanted to thank you. Let's begin by just bowing our heads for a moment and thank the Almighty for the food that we will have a little later on, and to pray for peace in the world.
Yes.
Thank you so much. And why don't we start first by start over here. You introduce yourself so we all get to know each other, feel comfortable with each other before we begin the conversation, starting with this great lady right here. Ms. Salam, go ahead.
Oh, with me?
Yes.
Okay, I'm Sharon Salam, and I'm with Justice for the Wrongfully Incarcerated, and we have plenty of questions.
My name is Jordan Wright. I am a campaign manager for our council member in Harlem, Yusef Salam. I'll be his chief of staff as the time comes. I have many questions myself, so thank you. Thank you, Tom, for having us.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Demanda Sims. I'm a member of the Epsilon Sigma chapter, Phi Beta Sigma writing in Harlem, and a long-time Harlem resident.
I'm Ken Jeffries. I'm also part of the...
You can speak up because there's an echo chamber here, so we can hear your name.
I'm Kenny Jeffries. I'm also part of the Epsilon chapter. I'm a resident also of Harlem.
Shannon Myers, also a member of Epsilon Sigma.
Good morning, I am Michael Mitchell, correspondent secretary of the Epsilon Sigma chapter in Harlem and a resident on the Upper West Side.
Sandy Bender, Epsilon Sigma.
Michael Coleman, Phi Beta Sigma, Epsilon Sigma chapter.
Philip Shepard, Epsilon Sigma chapter. My family's from Harlem. I'm from Harlem, so thank you for having us.
Donald Bolden, Boston's is Phi chapter, the Harlem Qs, born and bred in Harlem.
Willie Cohill, Phi Beta Sigma, Epsilon Sigma chapter.
Deborah Cochran, I'm a member of New York Alumni Chapter of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated, and I'm so happy to be here. Thank you.
Past immediate president of Sigma Nu Zeta Chapter, Zeta Phi Beta Sorority Incorporated, and currently work in the Harlem Community and School Community District 5. So looking forward to hearing conversation.
Good morning, Crystal Waterman, Sigma Nu Zeta Chapter. I'm also a born and bred Harlem resident, and I'm also an educator in the East Harlem area.
Good morning, Olivette Johnson, also a member of Zeta Phi Beta Sorority Incorporated, born and raised in Harlem, still residing here.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Christine Johnson Mason. I'm a member of Sigma Nu Zeta Chapter. I'm the second current vice president at this time, and I've also worked with the Department of Corrections, so I'm very interested in, when it comes to rehab and how to help everyone bring themselves, when they come back to the community, how can we assist with them reforming to change their mindset?
Hi, Gisela Carrasquillo, Sigma Nu Zeta.
Good morning, everybody. I'm Nicosa Collins, a member of Zeta Phi Beta Sorority Incorporated, Sigma Nu Zeta Chapter in Harlem, New York. And I'm also I work as the manager in one of the labs in one of our local hospitals right here in New York City. And I would love to hear what you can do for our community.
Thank you.
My name is Torcia Childs, and I'm with Delta Nu Zeta. I'm the Social Action Chair, and I'm just happy to see everyone, and I'm glad to be here.
Good morning, everyone. Sharice Ogolo, Zeta Phi Beta Sorority Incorporated, Sigma Nu Zeta Chapter, and I'm just here to hear what you have to say.
Thank you. And now, introduce yourself, please. William?
To office here in Harlem, with the Congressman and City Council member, Epsilon Sigma Chapter.
And I'm the CEO and founder of Harlem Network News, voice and drumbeat of Harlem. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and stay informed and engaged. Thank you.
Hello everyone, I'm Sean Brandon. I'm current boss list of Psi Lambda Lambda chapter of Omega Psi Phi Fraternity Incorporated until 3 o'clock today. But I'm also a member of CB10. I'm also with the Greater Harlem Chamber of Commerce, and I'm also with Mid-Manhattan NAACP. I'm here because I want to know what we can do to protect our democracy.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Do you have any more time left in your day? Okay, now, okay, one more person? Yes.
Good afternoon, good morning. My name is McCormick Charles. I'm a member of Phi Beta Sigma Fraternity Incorporated for Delta Chapter. I'm just here to fellowship with my brothers today and hear what you have to say.
Okay, thank you for being here. And I hope that we could have this gathering maybe quarterly, right, for every season of the year. And we can stay in touch with each other. I think that when we speak to each other, we find out what each of us is doing. It brings a greater coherence to our greater effort for the community, for Harlem, for the 13th Congressional District. And now let's hear, before I bring my presentation, from Brother Anthony Sanford. He's the president of the local chapter and someone that's been with us for a while. And he never says no, and is always present. Thank you for being here.
Thank you. I don't need this. First of all, good morning, everybody. Anthony Sanford, President, Epsilon Sigma, Harlem Sigmas. I don't see Sydney or the other state director, so I will, bring greetings on behalf of Sydney Moshet III, our New York State Director for Phi Beta Sigma Fraternity Incorporated, as well as Silver Wilhelmina Hurd James, New York State Director for Zeta Phi Beta Sorority Incorporated, as well as, because I sit on the board for NPHC NYC, Kevin Buse, the current president of the National Panhandling Council of Greater New York. On behalf of all these people and myself, I say thank you, everybody, for coming to here for us to fellowship, for us to hear the congressman. We've been aligned with this congressman for some time, and I love this initiative and this breakfast that we are doing. We are all active members in our fraternities as well as other community-based entities that we are here. So we want to hear from you, and we want to see the vision. We want to hear the leadership initiatives that you have in place. A lot of questions I imagine that people are going to be throwing out to you today, but just know that this room, as well as the ones that aren't here as well, we're ready. We've been working. We're ready to take our efforts to the next level with you as well. So with that said, thank you, everybody, once again for coming today, and I give the floor back to you.
Thank you so much. Thank you for being with us today and making your presence every time we call upon you. Thank you. Well, let's start first with some of the major projects in the 13th Congressional District. First, as you know, the 13th Congressional District stretches on the east side from 96th Street all the way up and all the way up to Meshulah Parkway in the Bronx. On the west side, it starts on 110th Street and it goes all the way up to Van Cortlandt Park in the Bronx, and it goes obviously all the way up to Meshulah Parkway in the Northwest Bronx. It's geographically the smallest district in the country. That means that we're very tight. We're living right next to each other because the districts are pretty much the same number of people constitutionally. But this is the smallest district geographically in the country. some districts down in Texas, for example, they almost go the full length of the border. Some members of Congress have to drive 12, 15 hours to get from one end of their district to the other. So this, on a good sunny day and a good pair of shoes, or a good pair of Nikes, right, you'll be able to walk the full length of it. It's also one of the most diverse districts in the country. It has Harlem, right, and Harlem is an iconic place, right?
Absolutely.
It's international. It's not just local. You may think that it's local in New York State, but it's not even just across the United States. It's international, right? And with it comes a whole legacy, a whole history, music and literature and the arts and struggle, right? The word struggle is synonymous with Harlem. And so it is an iconic district, right? That anywhere you go, you say, I represent Harlem, they know exactly where that is. And I always say that you can go anywhere in the country, to any big city or any country in the world, and you run into a neighborhood that reminds you of Harlem. Right? You can just walk down a neighborhood in Europe and say, wow, this place reminds me of Harlem. And so it's a personality, it's a history, and it's very iconic. Then you have East Harlem, El Barrio, which is also sort of like the launching pad of the Latino experience in the Northeast, not even New York City, in the Northeast. Back in the 20s and 30s, when the Puerto Rican community established itself there, El Barrio was the launching pad. Then you have immigrant Northern Manhattan, and you have the working class Northwest Bronx, and you have people from Senegal on 116th Street, and from Albania up in the Northwest Bronx, and Dominicans in Washington Heights, and then you have Mexicans in East Harlem, and you have people from the migration from the South on Amsterdam Avenue and in Harlem, and you have the Puerto Rican community in East Harlem, and you have a Vietnamese enclave in Fordham Road, and you have the West African migration now coming to the West Bronx part of the district, and you have Russian Jews and German Jews on Fort Washington Avenue. So you have really a very diverse district, and in that diversity, I think lies the strength of the district, because we're able to draw from each other the good things and learn from each other. And I think that when we come together, it is an unstoppable force, right? And so there are great challenges, as you all know, but also great expectations and great hopes of how we can move forward together. So the three major districts, some of you may have been, some of you were at the announcement of the first one, which is the 2nd Avenue subway, just east of us, right here. And the 2nd Avenue subway will be a major revolution of public transportation. First of all, 2nd Avenue and the east side of Harlem is the most dependent district for public transportation in the nation. And it is currently a transportation desert. So if you live all the way on 1st Avenue, you have to walk to Lexington Avenue to catch the most overcrowded subway line perhaps in the world. So this new expansion, the new phase of the 2nd Avenue subway, which was announced this last week with the presence of Secretary Buttigieg, will bring a $7 billion project to the neighborhood. The federal government will put in $3.4 billion, and that was what was announced last weekend, and the state will put the rest. So this is an important project because the first phase, which went right through the Silk Stocking District, perhaps the richest zip codes in the country, folks there weren't too keen on the job situation, but it generated 16,000 jobs, the first phase. This phase was just 3 stops, right? will generate, I predict, more jobs than that. So we're working closely with the Rangel Center, the Charles Rangel Center in City College, to train young people to ensure that many of those jobs will go to local folks. And these jobs, many of them will be prevailing wage jobs, high-paying jobs that are good for the community, right? So this is an important project that will connect, I say, Harlem to the rest of the world, because it will be a transportation hub. Right there on 125th Street, it will connect to Metro North. Right now, the debate is whether the 2nd Avenue subway will connect directly to Metro North, or whether you'll have to step out and walk across the street to connect to Metro North. We want to expand the number of commercial space in the project to have more businesses in the terminal. And we also want to make sure that is a seamless transition from Metro North to 2nd Avenue. So that's an important discussion. Let's welcome our city council member, Mr. Salam. And so we want to make sure that it is a first-class project for working-class people, that it will provide also express bus service to, as it currently is the case, to LaGuardia Airport, and to future water transportation on the Hudson and Harlem River. There is, the MTA came out with the 5th phase. The vision of the MTA is that it will run all the way west to the number 1 line in the future. There are 2 other phases taking it all the way down to the East Village. And so these are the, this is a projection that will generate significant economic development in the area. We know what some of the mistakes were in the 1st phase, so we're working hard to avoid any disruption. The tunnel work is 75% done already. It was done back in the 70s by the city. And the city ran into fiscal problems and they closed the project. So the tunnel work goes all the way up to 120th Street. If you go down there, it feels like you think the subway is gonna come right at you at any time, because most of it is done. So we're basically talking about the work from 120th Street to 125th Street and then going west to the Lexington Avenue line. So we hope that it will provide significant commercial space so that there will be shops and stores and businesses there as well, and that it will really generate major economic buzz there in 125th Street. And so this is an exciting project. It's the biggest investment in transportation for a project of that nature in the history of the Department of Transportation. So it's really an exciting time, and as I said earlier, we have been able to drive over $7 million to the Rangel Center at City College to ensure that young people get trained for those particular jobs. And we know what the jobs are already because we had the template from the 1st phase. So we know exactly what kind of job descriptions will be will entail the project. So we're moving forward in that direction. We're working with City College in the training process. The unions are working with them. The Building Congress of New York City is also engaged with them. The city and the state are engaged with them. And we hope to give you a report as we move forward on how many local jobs that will generate. So that's the first project. The second big project is on the Kingsbridge area of the district in the Northwest Bronx, and that's the Kingsbridge Armory. That project is currently under the city's bidding process. The proposal, the RFP, the request for proposal, already was issued by the EDC, the agency of the City of New York, the Economic Development Agency of the City of New York, and the governor of the state of New York allotted $100 million, as well as the mayor of the City of New York allotted another $100 million for any company or entity that will win the award, win the bidding process. So that's happening right now as we speak. My understanding is that over 100 companies have physically visited the Armory. The Armory is the biggest armory in the country. You can literally fit 3 football fields on the top floor, and then it's got 7 stories going down. So it's over 800,000 square feet. And we feel that that could be an investment that could generate thousands of jobs, and it could really be the engine of revival for the Bronx, which continues to be the poorest borough in the city of New York. And we're very optimistic about this particular project. The city engaged over 5,000 residents of the neighborhood to get their vision. They put out a vision statement, and they put 4 categories which they feel could be feasible for development in that particular site. The site has some issues. The reservoir right across Lehman College runs underneath it, and sometimes the last 2 floors flood, so that has to be mitigated. And the facade of the Armory is also landmarked. So those are some of the sort of like restrictions in the project, but there's a lot of interest in it. One of the categories is film and TV. Another one is urban manufacturing, bringing manufacturing jobs. Tech is one, and there's an urban agriculture is the fourth column of potential development for that particular site. We feel very much that this is not just a city project, because the zip codes there were the hardest hit by the pandemic. Those zip codes in Kingsbridge and Fordham in the Bronx were the hardest hit by the pandemic, and it will be a great message, not just for the city, but for the country, to tell the rest of the world that right here where the pandemic really hammered us, this is what we're developing to bring the city back. And this is the number of jobs that will be created and how it will further strengthen local businesses as well. A project that will not hurt local businesses and push them out, but rather strengthen them and make them thrive. That's the goal of that particular project. And the third project is a first-class cultural and performing arts center for Northern Manhattan. That's a smaller project, but it's one of the 3 biggest the initiatives that my office is working on. And it's taking time and struggle to get funding. We had, for example, for the 2nd Avenue subway, we had to ensure that during the pandemic, because the subway system and the MTA runs on a ridership formula. That's where they get most of their funding from. So during the pandemic, not many people were taking the subways, but we still had to feed the system. Is a juggernaut, right? It's like your brakes in your car. You know, you go 50,000 miles, you got to change your brakes. Otherwise, it will hurt your brake system. So we had to get the funding, $8 billion from the federal government, to keep the system moving and make sure that first responders and emergency service people were able to get to work, and that the MTA was not forced to take a dip into the bucket funding that we had already in place for 2nd Avenue subway. So we preserved that funding, that bucket, and that was really hard to do, particularly during the pandemic, because we needed a lot of money for a bunch of things. So we were able to preserve the money that we had there. The state also gave a commitment and said that they wouldn't touch that money. This is also an equity project, right? We see, for example, Penn Station, and we see the Moynihan Station, and we see the tunnel, the Gateway Tunnel. Those are transportation projects for outer boroughs, right? And suburbanites. But this is for Harlem and East Harlem, right? So this is an equity issue too, that the money that's put on the table is spread out equitably to not just the suburbs and Jersey and the tri-state area, but also to neighborhoods like the one that I represent. So it's been a struggle but we're there. The first one was announced, The second one is in motion right now. The city's getting the proposals. We hope that decisions will be made sometime around January, February of next year, and that we can cut the ribbon sometime in the middle of next year for Kingsbridge Armory. So that's where we are with the main three projects. But in addition to that, you know, there's other entities in addition to the Wrangell Center that I have given money to in Harlem, including the Greater Harlem Chamber of Commerce. You know, we're working on security issues for the 125th Street commercial strip. So we'll give you the list of all the major institutions that we've given funding to during my last 7 years in Congress. With that, also want to tell you that we're taking Phi Beta Sigma to the Dominican Republic. We're going to open a chapter there. I'm going to take you there, but I'm not going to take you to the beach because then I won't get you to do any work.
Can we all go?
William knows. If I take you to the beach, I'm going to need a tow truck to pull you out of there. So we're going to do that, and I hope that we can have a trip at some point where we go make the announcement, right, and build bridges to the Caribbean, and then we can go over to some of the other Caribbean islands that are right there that will that have a lot to contribute, which are an intricate part of the African diaspora, right?
Absolutely.
Sometimes we're myopic, right? And we think that it's just here. No. You know, you go to Honduras, for example, and you have the Garifunas there, right?
Yes, yes.
They speak their native language. They don't speak Spanish. They speak their language. And they have their culture. You go to Brazil, you know, a strong African, Latino African community there in Brazil. You go all over South America and Central America, and you're going to find that presence there. And in the Caribbean, obviously, you know, that was the center of the diaspora. And so we hope to drive goodwill and our great commitment to service, right? Which is the backbone of this fraternity. Service, right? Public service. And we all know that God triples what you give, quadruples what you give when you do it without expecting anything back.
Yes.
You know, it just flows like a mighty river, right? And so we can do a lot together. And I hope to maybe sometime next year, you know, sometime in the summer or the spring or summer next year, we could plan a trip over there. You know.
Expect.
Okay.
Sounds good.
All right. Okay, so now why don't we do this? Now let's, you know, I really came here to hear from you.